When we talk about Congress, we are talking about the two chambers. Oftentimes, people think Congress refers to just the members of the House of Representatives. Now, the confusion comes from the term congressman, congresswoman, that is used to refer to those that are serving in the House. But in reality, Congress comprises of both chambers, the Senate and the House. Okay, so let's take a closer look. Now, the House is comprised of 435 members. 435 members. They serve a two-year term and they represent districts. Now, this is important to note. They serve a two-year term. That means every 2 years, their mandate has to be renewed. Every 2 years, there's an election and mandate has to be renewed. They get voted in, they get re-elected, or they get kicked out of office, essentially. And that's because they are the grassroots representatives of the people. And they cannot be there for a long time if they are not performing, with no opportunity to get them out of the office, except maybe you can recall them, which is a very tedious process. The 2-year mandate is to hold them accountable. And if within those 2 years they are not performing well, there's an opportunity for the electorate to vote them out of office. So the 435 members of the House of Representatives serve 2-year terms, and they represent districts of anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, whatever the case may be, depending on the population of the state. Now, every state at least has one representative. Wyoming, for example, has one representative. States like Montana has one representative, and so forth. But then you have states like California that has 53 representatives. And that's because of the population of almost 40 million. So it is proportional. Depending on the population of the state, you have, the members serving accordingly, the number of members serving accordingly in the House. Now, the most powerful person in the House is the Speaker. The Speaker controls the agenda of the House. The Speaker comes from the majority party, but is voted in by the entire House, because the leadership of the Speaker is for the entire House, not just for the majority party, even though the Speaker comes from the majority party. This is very important to note. Now, on the Senate side, there are 100 senators, right? There are 50 states in the United States, each state having 2 representatives in the Senate, 2 senators, essentially, and they serve 6-year terms. And the senators represent states, not districts. The House of Representative members represent district, while the senators represent the entire state. Now, it's very important to note that regardless of population, right, each state has 2. So the smaller states like Delaware, Montana, Alaska, Wyoming, they have 2 senators as well. That's because of the doctrine of the equality of states. The doctrine of the equality of states, right? So all states are equal. Therefore, no state can have more senators than the other. California has 2, as is Delaware, as is Alaska, as is Montana, Wyoming, and so forth, because it's a point that stresses the equality of states. Now, the senators serve a 6-year term, as opposed to a 2-year term for the members of the House of Representatives. The 6-year term is staggered. What does that mean? It means that they all do not get in at the same time. They get it at different times, and when your 6 years are up, you go for re-election, or you just retire from the Senate, right? So, for example, if a senator is elected in the year 2020, then that senator's term ends in 2026. But a senator elected in 2022, the last senator's term ends in 2028, right? So in 2028, there will be an election in that state to elect new senators or to re-elect the ones that are serving, right? So it is staggered in that sense. But for the House, they all go for election at the same time, right? So 2022, 2024, 2026, 2028, 2030, and so forth and so on and so on, every 2 years. This is also important to note. Okay, so now this is the upper chamber and this is the lower chamber, right? But this is the grassroots representation of the country, of the citizens of the United States, because they represent districts, right? Smaller groups, and they're able to interact with their district. They're able to understand what their issues are. They're able to take those issues to Congress and be able to, address those issues efficiently and in sustainable ways. In terms of power structure, then, the vice president of the country becomes the president of the Senate. The vice president of the country becomes the president of the Senate. Now, the vice president has voting powers, especially when there's a tie in the vote, 50-50. The vice president breaks that tie. And then you have the president pro tempore. The president pro tempore. Now, this is the longest serving consecutive member of Senate of the ruling party, right? That means it has to be the longest serving without interruption. So, for example, you don't serve 15 years and then you get voted out, and then after 6 years you come back and serve another 15 years. No, it's the longest serving, consecutive serving member of the ruling party as the president pro tempore. Now, this person has powers as well. As a matter of fact, this person is the second ranking officer, right, after the majority leader. We're going to talk about the majority leader. The majority leader is the second ranking officer in the Senate. And this person works with other senators, junior senators. They take turn working 30 minutes shifts, working with him on issues and affairs of the Senate. A very important position this person holds. Now, there's also the presiding officer. And the presiding officer is the one that calls events on the floor and gives the majority leader what is known as the right of first recognition, right? So yields to the majority leader to begin the legislative agenda, to begin to address the senators and to set the stage and the tone for the legislative agenda, etc. Right? So the presiding officer does that. Now, on this side, on the House side, there's a majority leader, right? The majority leader is the leader of the majority party in the House. The person is voted in by members of the majority party, and the majority leader works very closely with the speaker on the legislative agenda. Very powerful person as well, the majority leader. On the Senate side, there is a majority leader who is the most powerful of all the senators, right? So again, this person sets the agenda. This person schedules bills or can refuse bills. Schedules agendas for the Senate and so forth, etc. Right? Very powerful position. There is a minority leader as well, and this is the leader of the opposition party. And this person is voted in by members of the opposition party. There is also a minority leader on the House side, the same in terms of the voting in. This person is voted in by members of the opposition party in the House. Then, of course, you have what is known as Senate whips and House whips. Then you have majority and minority whips on this side, and you also have majority and minority whips on this side, right? So what is their responsibility? Their title is very interesting, right? As the title suggests, whips. Now, they don't actually whip the senators and the members of the House of Representatives, but what they do is actually whip them into line. Right? They are very important because they work very closely with the leadership, with the majority leaders, minority leaders, to ensure that members of the party vote according to party lines. They vote according to the agenda of their party, not according to their ideological leanings, not according to the wishes of their constituencies and districts, but according to party line. And this is very important as well because they are the grassroots leaders on the floor. They interact with members of the party. They keep them abreast of the agenda of the party. They keep them abreast of upcoming votes. They make sure that they show up, they're on the floor, ready to vote. They understand the issues, and they are in line with the party agenda and so forth. Very important. And if they are not in line with party agenda, those members are reported to the party, and the party will take action accordingly, right? So there are Senate whips and House whips, right? So the majority Senate whip, for example, is a very important official, is the third ranking member in terms of power in the Senate, working closely with the majority leader, working closely with the other members to ensure that the Senate's agenda is accomplished. So the Congress has become a very key institution in American democracy, working side by side with the other institutions like the judiciary, the executive, and they serve to represent the people. They are the voice of the people. They enact law. They make sure that the people are represented adequately, and their voices are heard, and that democracy flourishes in the country. Right? So this is the Congress. This is the Congress of the United States. The power structure of this Congress, the Senate with 100 senators, the House with 435 members together, The Congress has 535 members. They have majority leaders on both sides, minority leaders on both sides, Senate whips and House whips on both sides. The Speaker is the most powerful person in the House. They have majority and minority whips. The majority leader is very powerful as well. The minority leader is very powerful amongst the members of the opposition as well. And then, of course, on this side, the majority leader is very powerful, as we've already established. The minority leader, of course, for his or her party, and the Senate whips. And of course, we have the president of the Senate, who is the vice president of the United States, and this person should be presiding over affairs. They break ties in terms of a 50-50 tie. They break ties, and the president pro tempore, the longest-serving consecutive member of the ruling party. And then, of course, the presiding officer, who sets the agenda, gets the ball rolling, and defers to the majority leader and gives him or her the right of first recognition. This is the U.S. Congress.